Hi, this is Dan, and I thought I would record some videos this year for at least some of these prompts for RPG a Day. So the first prompt is for scenario. Now, my background in tabletop RPG is a little more of the Forge or story game kind of tradition, where scenarios aren't as big of a thing as in traditional games where you've got sort of dungeons or adventures or things like that, where it's sort of a more commonplace part of the game. But a number of years ago, there was a design contest on RPG Geek, which was about designing adventures for an indie game, and I thought that was interesting. And then I said, well, wait a minute, what game can I design an adventure for? And the only thing I came up with was a game that I myself had designed for a different design contest. So the premise of that game was kind of a Doctor Who with the serial numbers filed off. And because of the episodic nature of the show, there was sort of like always like a sci-fi premise thing. And so there was a good place to think of scenarios that you're going to create for the game. So I decided to make one of those for the design contest. It was not a huge contest, so it didn't get a lot of attention, but the thing I made for that was called Storage, and I thought it was a cool little sci-fi horror premise, and it's kind of just been sitting there ever since, because the game it went with kind of, I still haven't fully figured out how to make it work. And it's been kind of just sitting on my back burner for a few years. But recently I've been getting into this new design concept called Mosaic Strict, which is sort of like a deconstruction of game design a little bit. So the idea is, like, rather than trying to build games where all the mechanics kind of fit together smoothly, you're sort of designing these modular components that just don't directly interact with any other mechanical elements of the game. So I thought that's been kind of cool. And I've been doing some stuff with that. And I thought, one thing that people might want with games are adventures. And hey, I've got these little scenarios that I have from that old game. Let me see if I can figure out how to make those into Mosaic Strict adventures. I could salvage the design work I did back then and try to repackage it into a new thing. And sort of give that little cool sci-fi scenario kind of maybe a new shot at finding a home somewhere that somebody might be interested in it. So a big chunk of the way that game, the GM side rules and the adventures themselves worked, was to sort of compensate for something that I'm not naturally very good at when I'm GMing a game, which is coming up with just kind of vivid, concrete details, kind of like, because I'm not super invested in that personally. It's kind of something I just sort of forget to do when I'm in the sort of the GM role, right? When you're focused on, lots of other things, you're sort of, you tend to forget the things that aren't sort of personally important to you. But, I recognize that some of those concrete details are important to the experience of the game. It's just something I'm just not naturally, like, it doesn't occur to me to do it in the moment. So I thought, well, that's kind of what game design is there for, right? To sort of prompt you to do things that are good and fun and interesting, even if it's not natural for you. So I wanted to sort of incorporate some of those into the Mosaic Strict modules. But when I started to think about how to do that, it occurred to me that almost everything about the way that I had that game working factored into the resolution system. And part of my vision of Mosaic Strict is you want to sort of stay out of the way of where other mechanical systems might end up. So I thought that it would be cooler to try to figure out a way to make these systems work in a way that didn't touch sort of resolution of like make you more likely to succeed or more likely to fail or get good results or bad results or things like that. So I figured, well, you don't want to try to talk to those mechanics from this module because that could potentially be someone else's module and you don't know how that's going to work. But I only have sort of one idea for, so I want there to be kind of little mechanical hooks to remind you to do these things, because I think that's kind of what's fun and interesting about trying to make a GMing module. But figuring out what the consequence for those is, I'm still kind of stuck on. I have only one idea, which is like whether an NPC gets killed off screen or not. So you could have, give out little tokens to players for various things, and they say, oh, I like that NPC. I want to make sure they're not killed off screen by, the horrific scenario. But other than that, I haven't really come up with any ideas, so that project is kind of stuck right now. But that's something I'd like to develop in terms of scenarios, figuring out how to get those ideas into this Mosaic Strict framework, because I think that would be fun and interesting, and then maybe someone would actually play a Mosaic Strict game, or some more people. But I haven't really figured out how to solve that problem yet. But that was what the scenario prompt made me think of. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope you come back next time. Bye!